Okay, I think we can start.
Yes, now we can start.
A very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar on a Sunday afternoon. My name is Nandini Bhatnagar. I'm a master's student at Jindal School of International Affairs and the moderator for today. The topic for today's webinar is the future after studying international affairs. We are joined by our speaker, who is our alumni and also my senior, Mr. Vijay Kanahali. He is from the batch of 2018 and graduated with a master's degree in diplomacy, law, and business from Jindal School of International Affairs. He has worked as a consultant with the Ministry of External Affairs in the G20 India Security Division. Prior to this, he was working with Jane's Defense, which is a leading company in the field of intelligence analysis. While he has many more achievements in his pocket, I would stop right here and invite him to take over and lead the session. Thank you so much.
Jai Hind, Namaskara. Thank you very much, Nandini. Let me start off by quoting a Vachana. So it goes like this. It is Kalabeda Kolabeda, Usiya Nudiyalu Beda, Muniya Beda, Anyarige, Asaya Padabeda, Tanna Bandisa Beda, Idara Haliyalu Beda, Ide Antaranga Shuddhi, Ide Bahiranga Shuddhi, Ide Nama Kudala Sangama Devara Nalisaruva Pari. What it means is, do not steal, do not kill, do not lie, do not rage, do not loathe the other, do not brag of yourself, do not revile the opponent. This itself is inner purity. This itself is outer purity. This alone is the way to win our Kudala Sangamadeva. So thank you. So to start with, thank you very much for the Jindal School of International Affairs and Jindal Global University and all other stakeholders for providing me with this opportunity to share my experiences. If my experiences probably may or may not help, at least they can be a stepping stone for you to probably not do something. Maybe that is a way you can at least take it. So I'm really grateful for Jindal School of International Affairs, who from the beginning encouraged me to be at my best and provided me with an opportunity to explore every single field. And then I would definitely I'm very grateful to God that facilitated all these opportunities, without whose blessings and divine blessings, there's nothing in the world that is possible. And then, of course, I'm very grateful to my parents who have invested that heavy sum of money and trusted in me that I would come out with something. And before I begin, I also am very grateful to Ambassador Dr. Mohan Kumar, Dr. Sriram Chalya, and Lalit sir, Swarnima ma'am, and so many others who have encouraged me and provided me with opportunities. And also Dr. Abdul Fattah Amora sir, who has been some sort of a god in helping me scale the opportunities that came my way. Yes, so let me start with stating about what is your future after you study international relations. The cautionary tale that I would like to state is that this is a space, while it is niche, at the same time has been occupied by persons belonging to other sectors. So since I right now work at the Ministry of External Affairs, I'm at the G20 India Development Working Group Division. So here we have experts dealing with climate change. We have experts dealing with development issues. We have persons who have done their MBAs. We have persons who have done their masters in economics, and people from media background, people who worked in big media houses, and we have lawyers, and we have everybody. So international relations is a space which is open to all and has enough space for every opinion. In fact, that in itself is what international relations for me, because we come from a social sciences background. It's a space where each and every one of us can air our thoughts. So that being said, the future, when I say the future, let me talk from an Indian perspective, because I do not have any experience having studied abroad. So with my experiences in India, let me tell you where your future has a bright spot. One of the key, so let me tell you how you can approach this. So the best way, in my opinion, to approach this is to see what are the relevant issues of the day. And by and large, I'm sure you're all aware that in India, foreign policy is a space which the state has a larger stake. When I say that, I mean, I'm sure when you look at the United States, or if you look at some, leading Western European countries, think tanks have a large say. Civil society has a large say, and when policy is formed, there is, I would say, a larger space for these stakeholders. But in India, it's driven by the state, and they do take opinions of others. So at this moment, for the future in international relations and after international affairs, some of the key topics that I believe at least would drive the next 10 to 15 years of India's foreign policy agenda. Why I'm stating these topics is that they are areas that are relevant to study. One is climate change. And when I say climate change, this would be in terms of getting your having a niche expertise in terms of EVs, seeing how the world is focusing on energy transition, and whether how the world is again approaching subjects such as net zero, and after net zero, how the world is also approaching subjects such as how to keep the temperature at 1.5 degrees Celsius. This in itself is a very key area. I gave so many of these subdivisions of climate change because uh, in every area, whether it's in foreign policy, whether you're doing law, whether you're doing working on ESGs, or whether you're working in any sector whatsoever, climate change is one subject area which is heavily focused on. So I would say develop an expertise in this field. It will be greatly helpful to you because one thing is that if you develop an expertise in this area, you are looking at potential employment from number one, a lot of ministries. It could be Ministry of Environment and Forest, MOEFCCC. You could see yourself in an MNRE, that's a Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And you have space again in the Ministry of External Affairs. And also you have international organizations such as the UNDP. And then you have space in organizations again, like a CEEW. I'm just quoting think tanks. Just you can definitely explore what suits you. But why again this subject is important? Because the world is looking at energy transition, but the developing world, that is countries like India and its other South-South cooperation countries, are looking at how to approach this subject from a just energy transition, meaning this cannot be yet another thing where only a few benefited and the others suffered. So there's a good future for those who can concentrate on the subject of climate change and who can develop nuanced understandings of SDGs, energy transition, how EVs work, and how the government is encouraging. So this is one area I would say has a great scope for those who can focus on it. So why I brought up this subject right in the beginning is because I feel that even when we were students, some of the key areas only that we focused on were things like, let's say, an Indochina or Middle East, or probably something very nuanced in terms of defense. So I would not say don't focus on it, but I believe that those are areas which by and large is dealt with, or the market trusts those views on those subjects. The market has more value for those subjects when it comes from, let's say, retired armed forces officers, or persons who have retired from civil service and have had a good amount of experience in already having dealt with the subject. So yes, that is my approach towards things, because there's really no point in mastering in a subject and having plethora of knowledge in that field when the market is already saturated with experts in that field. But you do take climate change. This is an area I believe that you can really make a mark, and this, since it's an evolving field, you will have a lot of inputs coming in from good newspapers, and you are as good as the next person who's dealing with this subject. So that is something I would definitely say focus on. And then, yes, this is for those who would like to directly start working. And then again, then there is the area which I worked on in the beginning. I used to work at Jane's Defense. So these are areas. Well, when you come out of when you come out of your masters, you are definitely looking for employment right at when you come out. So, of course, there are many of these risk analysis firms. When one of those which I work for is Jane's Defense, and there are multiple ones. I don't want to name them. So, this is some sort of a place where it is a test of your patience, and it is a test of how well you can survive these places, because I do understand that these are the fields that can get very monotonous. And it can also get to a place where you're just looking at Excel sheets, and while the term might be risk analysis, and the work can be far from what you trained yourself at international relations to be handling, and though you're not facing the challenges that you assumed you would face. So yes, but I believe that even when I worked at Jane's Defense, it taught me a lot of patience. It taught me that I need to take things slow. But working at places like risk analysis firms, there is a good future for you if you look at it from this perspective. And the perspective that I would believe is that it develops a pattern in your mind. For example, I was given Middle East region, so I used to deal with Syria and Iraq. So in fact, over the period of 6 months, I could even think, I even knew in what village what is happening in Iraq, or in the northern part of Syria, where what sort of a weapon is being dropped at in those locations, or usually on what days you can see a factional infighting, etc. So I know it might sound very boring in the beginning, but this is the field I feel you have a lot of value if you can stick to it. If you stick with it, this is the space where over time the market really values you way more than anybody, because every day you're dealing with facts, and your mind has made a pattern out of not first hand but second hand information, but which is secondary information, but which has gotten to you through good artificial intelligence sources. So that is also a field that I think is worth exploring for those who would like to do it. Another field, when in India, let me talk from an Indian perspective. India, I believe, I'm sure you're all aware and also watch going by day, is asserting itself in the space through using its strategic autonomy. So trade is one area I believe is absolutely wonderful to explore, and I'll tell you the opportunities that present to you. So when I was in Jindal, Ambassador Mohan Kumar used to teach a subject called as India and multilateralism, the case of WTO. So I took that subject very seriously, and I'll tell you the chain of positive things that happened to me from there. So I immediately applied to work for an internship at the DGTR. The DGTR stands for Directorate General for Trade Remedies. So yes, so I worked there as an intern. I used to deal with anti-dumping issues, or countervailing measures, or other subsidies that India is tackling, which are being put by certain countries, which are hampering the growth of the Indian industries. And yes, it was a great opportunity to learn there from experts and officers, and also sit at negotiations between a certain textile business which is bringing in clothes to India versus textile people from India who were stating how goods were being dumped into India. So you would already have had an inbuilt knowledge into this. So take up these internships. These internships can lead to better places. Why I state so is that after doing my Directorate General for Trade Remedies internship, immediately from there, I applied for an internship at the Multilateral Economic Relations Division of the MEA. My internship, I believe, did help in developing a relation for that internship, wherein they believe that, all right, since this person has worked on certain issues of the WTO, and since the MER division in the Ministry of External Affairs was dealing with this, they did find it as conducive to offer me an internship. So yes, these internships really matter a lot. So I would really this of course is for people who are about to pass out, and if you have any opportunities to still intern, you can take that. So that is from the perspective of trade, and please take trade seriously, because climate change and trade and global supply chains and friendshoring, and India inviting a lot of companies to set up base here, we do have a very good space. I believe we absolutely have a very good space to explore and join it. So I believe there is going to be another question, and that question would be for many people would be, how can I get into these places when I am probably just 24 or 25? I work with a lot of persons who are 25, 26, and I'll tell you their education backgrounds. So their education backgrounds were very similar. One is that they would have either done an undergrad in law, or they would have done something as diverse. I mean, they could have also, I know many of my colleagues who've done economics and media studies, and then a master's in international relations or an MBA. And then there is space for everyone, because international relations, like I mentioned, is bringing together different sets of opinions on a subject. So, for example, I used to work in, I worked in BRICS India 2021. So I was one of the consultants working for the government. So I was offering my perspective, let's say from an international relations perspective. I have a colleague who comes from a very, very good business school. She used to offer perspectives from a business perspective. Then I had another colleague who had done developmental economics. She used to give her perspectives from there. And then I had a friend who had worked in, who had gone to LSE. So her expertise was offered through that perspective. So you are actually competing with people who also have views on your same subject. But I still believe that the upper hand, or let's say an advantage that you probably possess, is that you know the history of things, you know the background of things. For example, if there is an issue between India and, let's say, one of its neighbors to the north, you already have an understanding of where we stand. Have we faced any wars? What has shaped our thinking to be the way it is? What has shaped our current relations with them? So use that to your advantage. Use that to your advantage and show why you deserve to take that slot over the rest, is what I think. And see, I know the subject is future, but the future can only be can make sense for you if you've done something in the past that is worthwhile. So in your past, ensure that you do quite a lot of internships, because internships really define your present. I'm somebody who believes in that, because when you do a good number of internships, what happens is that you develop maybe not subject expertise, but you see how the world approaches that subject. And you see that we don't live in silos where, for example, where only somebody who does medicine can become a doctor, or somebody with a relevant branch of engineering degree can get into that subject, or somebody who's only studied law can become a lawyer. But yours and ours is a space which can also be taken over by others. So that will give you that understanding. So I think a lot of internships are important. And again, these visits to embassies that the college, which I'm really grateful, organizes for, please do take part in that, because they offer to you at least how the diplomatic corps works. It can sometimes instill in you these values, which you're like, okay, I must place myself in these places in a few years. And along with that, one thing JGU offers, which is fascinating for me, is these cross electives. That really shaped my values, because although I was in JSI, I took up a course called Doing Business in China. Sorry, Chinese Business in India, Regulation, Framework, and Context. That subject was really helpful, because through that course was being taught by Ms. Wenjuan. Dr. Wenjuan. So, ma'am, I think we had 12 lectures or 8 lectures. Almost every 8 lectures was covered by Chinese businesses in India. So we had businessmen teaching those subjects, and then we were sent to those businesses wherein we saw what they're doing in India, how they're approaching to do business in India. So I think you should make use of every opportunity that comes your way. And then and see, one more thing is that I feel like the world has space for people with diverse perspectives. So I did a lot of courses from the liberal arts school, and that was very helpful. Then I went to Jindal School of Journalism and Communications. I did a course on, I think, post-truth era in the modern world or something. So take as many perspectives as possible. Explore spaces that others haven't yet set and made a mark on. And like I said, climate change, international trade is the space to be if you are in India. And of course, if you can ask me questions on how is it to study abroad, and what the future offers once you study there. I can offer my perspectives on that. So I will stop here, and I would like to take your questions. And feel free to ask me anything that is pertinent to this, and I would love to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now, if anybody has any questions, I'd request you to please put it in the chat box, or you can also raise your hand. And In the meantime, while that's happening, I would like to ask some of my own questions that I think would help people who are going to join this field or are already in this field. Before starting that, could you please describe your role as a consultant in the MEA, since that's one that job profile that seems very attractive to everybody?
Sure, Nandini. Yes. All right. I'll tell you how I started. So, my role as a consultant is so number one, when you have a contract with the Ministry of External Affairs as a consultant, it is you're working on behalf of the you're working. Your contract is signed by an additional secretary on behalf of the President of India. So during your time period, you are directly working with every officer who is concerned with your division, meaning you're directly working for every IFS officer, and you are working with undersecretaries, you are working with deputy secretaries, directors, joint secretaries, additional secretaries, and secretaries. So the government is very kind in this. The government of India, the Ministry of External Affairs, they encourage you, and you are also part of every single meeting that takes place. You are also part of negotiations. You are also part of meetings that discuss how to address certain issues, and that is your role. So you're working wherein you may be asked, for example, to research on a certain subject. You may be asked to sit with an officer when they negotiate on a certain issue under certain multilateral negotiation. You may be asked to write a paragraph of a speech which is being addressed, or you may be asked to write a few paragraphs of a speech which would be taken up or spoken by others. And what else? So you do actually you've been given space to in fact contribute, like and like at par with how an undersecretary or persons of that rank would function. So that is what we do at the Ministry of External Affairs as a consultant. And so that was BRICS. So then I right now work for the G20 division. So I'm sure you all would be following up on it, and I'm so glad to see that Jindal has also started. So even here, it's the same. You take part in negotiations, you have to take notes, you have to know how to churn out documents, you need to know how to churn out speeches, you need to know how to churn out talking points. These are all essential things that are expected from you. And so how you get in? So there are two ways. One is the government directly recruits through their portal, which you would have seen. So you just need to apply on the MEA portal. And the other one is that this is something in practice in a lot of ministries. And so that the other version is that the government gets people through consultancies. So interning at, let's say, a Deloitte or a KPMG or a Satwa or PwC, it really helps because since these consulting firms would have experts in certain fields, they would then send you on secondment to the government of India. So there are people, let's say, who work from Satwa Consulting or Primus or PwC or Deloitte. So they all work for the government. So this is another way how you can work for the Ministry of External Affairs.
Thank you. There's a question in the chat box asking you to please tell your education journey from bachelor's and how did you get where you are. I would like to club this question with one of my own, which is by profession, you were already a lawyer, if I'm correct, working with a very well-established firm in Bangalore. How and when did this switch happen that made you take this leap into a new field and one such as IR?
Sure. So yes, from my bachelor's was in law. So I did BBA LLB at Christ University, Bangalore. And again, even with law school also, we had 10 semesters. So I did 9 internships. So after 9 internships, they believed that I could work for them at a law firm. So I joined Tatwa Legal Advocates, wonderful place. And post that, I worked for a few years. And then, there was that urge to write UPSC. So I took up UPSC. When I said took up, I mean I went to Old Rajendra Nagar, and then I attended those coaching classes. And until then, I was just another cosmopolitan Bangalorean with all the materialistic comforts and luxuries that life can offer with a good paycheck. So this UPSC experience was what changed my life. I realized there's an entire different side to life, which I've completely missed out on. So those classes were heavily influential on me. The old Rajendra Nagar environment, and the passion in which you see people studying to make it somewhere in life, and people who like five people staying in one room and trying to make something of life. That is what I think did a 180. So from there, I learned about in India. I mean, until then, I think I knew India. And after I studied for UPSC and failed, I realized that this is not the India I want. I want to think more from a Bharat perspective. Then for me, I used to, during UPSC, we used to watch a lot of Dr. Sriram Chawla on TV. So I used to always wonder, who is this person? How does he speak so well? And that perspective used to really blow my mind. So I thought, let me do a master's in international relations. Why I did international relations? Well, it's so even when I was doing law, I somehow cannot stand in a situation where only one person wins. Maybe that's something of a very personal thing in nature, because when you go back and look back, you realize why you do what you do. So I was always in a situation when there's a confrontation, I could never see where only one person wins and the other one goes on sad. So I used to like to explore the gray area, how you can send both parties, in an amicable way, or give them something for somebody and make everybody have a piece of the cake. So international relations was that space which I saw that, everybody has something to take home, because in international relations, there can never be a situation where only one party gets what they want, because that is not international relations. That's not diplomacy for me. Hence, I decided to explore the space of international relations to see how conflicts are resolved through diplomacy, conflicts are resolved through speaking, and conflicts are resolved through coming to a solution where, in the long term, it is sustainable based on mutually coming to terms which are beneficial to all. Hence, I came into international relations, and then also it's guidance. So Ambassador Mohan Kumar, Dr. Abdul Fattah Amora, Dr. Chawla, Dr. Wenjuan, tons of you, and Mr. Dipanshu Mohan, all these people. So for me, Mr. Dipanshu Mohan, or we used to have Dr. Deep K. Dattare. Why I believe that these are important persons in shaping my journey were, I came from a thought process which did not align with these teachers' views. But then I realized that you have to listen to more people who don't think like you if you need to get ahead. Because if you only are sitting in an echo chamber just thinking the way you do, that doesn't make sense. So I took up a lot of courses which really, really annoyed my worldview, but I believe that those views were important in teaching me to be acceptable of others' views in true sense and go forward. So that was my journey from law to international relations, and then why I realized that I should stick on to this field, because I like exploring the gray area to take things forward. So that is my thing. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take another question from the chat box by Akrit Hari Kumar, who's asking, in addition to climate change and international trade, could you also shed some light on sectors that are financially lucrative for IR students to explore?
Sure. So I believe what he means by that is sectors which pay well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So for that, you see, all right. When you come out of this course, look at the reality of it. You are probably 22 or 23. Let's accept those things. If we accept that as a premise, things can go forward well. So I would suggest that there is no one way of going into the lucrative sector, but there are a few steps you take and you can get there. So immediately when you come out, probably you can start off by joining a risk analysis firm. All right, join the good ones. Like if you join a Jane's Defense, so what happens is that, number one, you learn good skills on open source intelligence grasping, and then you learn to form good patterns in your mind, and then you become a sector expert in certain specific things, like let's say energy crisis in the Middle East, or probably what are the weapons that are being supplied in the Middle East, or what are the companies that are supplying those weapons. So you do that for 2 years, all right? Do that, let's say, for 2 years. Simultaneously, at the same time, keep writing. And after that, believe me, okay, let me make it more easier for you. Forget James. Take, for example, The Economist. All right? Do risk analysis at The Economist. And once you do risk analysis at a place like The Economist, which does start off, it's still paying you well. I believe they start you off with like 10 lakhs. I mean, I don't know if that is good enough for you. For me, that would have been good enough to start off with as a 22, 23-year-old. Work there for 2 years, all right? And then after that, you can apply to a place like BCG Consulting, Deloitte. You know, why it would be important to a place like this is that they can understand that, number one, you have already worked with a place which has taught you risk analysis, which has helped you form patterns in your mind, which has also helped you look at things from, and these are places when you're doing risk analysis, you're also looking at a lot of data at high speed. So they know you're a productive person and an efficient person. So yes, this place of consulting world, the world of consulting is very low. So some of the names I can give you for consulting would be a BCG, Deloitte, KPMG, then there's Satwa Consulting, then there is Primus, and then there's Bill and Melinda Gates. So I'm not sure if Bill and Melinda Gates directly consults, but yeah, these are places you can go to. And then also, that's that. The consulting world is something that is financially sustainable.
Thank you so much. If that's the end of the questions from the audience, I would ask my last question. And if somebody else wants to ask, please raise your hands. We'll wait for another 2 minutes. My last question to you would be, do you have any significant experiences or interactions or that moment of euphoria, initial moments of euphoria in your career or your time at JSI that you'd like to share with the audience or people in general who might be interested in this field? Just
Sure. Well, for me, it would definitely be, I mean, watching Dr. Jaishankar on TV towards today having the opportunity to serve one of these doyens of diplomacy at close quarters really makes me feel very grateful for the opportunities that Jindal gave me. The way they, I believe, yes, seeing him on TV towards today, having the opportunity to work for a great man like this is something that is great happiness to me. And then again, moments wherein I was taken to embassies. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So yes, that and attending. I mean, we had visited the Russian embassy once. We had gone there as students of diplomacy who had gone for a talk, and then having the opportunity to have lunch with them. I remember telling him that, sir, the last time I saw you, I was a student, and today I'm sitting with you and having lunch. He was also very happy about how Jindal's opportunities that helped me make an impact on myself in a positive way. So these are all moments. It makes you feel like where you came from and where you are today. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have another question in the chat box. Does study abroad affect your job prospects, and is it preferred?
Okay. This is my view, personally, my view, which I formed and why I didn't go abroad. One thing is you go abroad, number one, please go abroad if you're financially doing very well. I would discourage people from taking loans to go abroad to do something in social sciences. Why I state so is that when we say abroad, I'm thinking about, let's say, the United States and Western Europe. See, the world already has enough people who are good at giving opinions, and ours is a field again which specializes in giving thoughts, right? What are we doing at the end of the day? We're just giving our opinion on things, and IR has enough space for people's thinking. So what I mean by that is that unless you're somebody who is from STEM, science, tech, engineer, math, if you're not from those fields, I believe IR, you should do it here, because I mean, especially when you come from a country like India, which is surging ahead, and the world wants to know what is India's next move. Stay here, learn here, understand this place better. You are at the epicenter of foreign policy or for international relations for the next century, I believe. So stay here, learn here, become an expert here, and you be that person who gives thoughts to the entire world from here. Because let me tell you, I know this from a lot of friends. Abroad is nice, but after that, you have value in the market if you are from STEM. If you're from social sciences, it's so simple for them to say that why is it that I need to take this person? So yeah, I would suggest that if you're doing social sciences courses, do it in India, because at the end of the day, we're just giving opinions, and countries abroad like people who've done STEM. That's about it.
Thank you so much. I think with that, that's the end of questions from our audience and me. And just to sort of give a quick recap about what we discussed today. So I think since this is a very offbeat field, and guidance of people who are already in this field and seniors like you play a very important role in for us who are already enrolled in this or who are interested in joining a field like IR. And what we discussed today was IR as a space is open to everybody and has space for everyone. I have seen people in my own class and peers coming from all kinds of background, with all kinds of academic knowledge and bringing their own perspectives to IR, and that's what makes classes at JSI or JGU much more interactive and much more lively than what it is usually. Then we discussed about how markets have more value for certain areas, and for that same reason, we should focus on areas that are relevant to study. We discussed about climate change, energy transition, and developing an expertise on on such subjects would help somebody have an edge over others. Then we talked about intelligence analysis and trade, and how internships can lead to better places, as we can see in a live example of our speaker today. Then we talked about the importance of field visits to embassies that are very well advertised by our college, by the university. Then towards the end, I think my favorite part of today's talk was take as many perspectives as possible and explore places and subjects that haven't been explored before. And to conclude, the need to listen to people who don't think like you. That's, I think, one of my favorite takeaways from today's session. Prerna ma'am, would you like to pitch in before
Sorry,
I conclude?
I'm sorry. I'll just add one more thing. Yeah? Thank you. Sorry, Prerna, to jump in.
No
So,
problem.
yeah. So again, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Nandini. I think what Nandini did is the skill that the world is looking for. Somebody who can read a lot and can summarize it in the way the market wants. Because the market today no more has space for I know we're used to writing 100,000, 2,000 words essays and things. The world is looking for somebody who can be succinct, and that can come to you through our field. So please make use of these skills that you get in Jindal. And the thing is that it's not just I'm not patronizing Jindal here, but I'm really telling you, if you're here in this college, please go and learn from every school that there is, because that really played a very good role in my life. So, and sorry, I forgot to actually add this. After a while, the gold medal that I got, I'm very grateful for Jindal, and everything else is secondary. In the market, when you come, the world is actually looking for people who are humble. If you are not humble, if you can't gel well with people, if you're not nice, if you think that you belong to XYZ, something, it's not going to help. I've seen a lot of people crash and burn despite being like 1,000 times smarter than me, because that element of humility and respect for people and being soft spoken was lacking. So at the same time, while becoming knowledgeable, please also focus on this. See how you can respond. See how instead of reacting, you can be somebody who responds. See how you can be patient towards things, and also see how much humility you have, and have faith in certain things and offer your worldview. Yeah. So, in the sense, you have a story. I mean, you come from a certain background. Give that as your perspective of international relations. Why I state this is that my parents are agriculturists, so my approach towards international trade was from the perspective of how coffee plantations and agriculturists in India are facing harm in terms of coffee being dumped in through, let's say, Southeast Asian countries. So give your perspective, because if you're just going to parrot what somebody else knows, those are things that are already in newspapers. See what you can offer. And to my side, to conclude, I really like to recall one of these UPSC teachers that told me this. I think it really helped me a lot in life. Uh, First thing is that when you don't get where you want to in life through a certain action, uh, don't change your end goal. There's always a means to an end, right? So change your means and not the end. Have patience if something doesn't work, and still focus on how you can get there. That is number one for me. And number two is that he said the greatest respect that you can give to somebody is by respecting their time. Respect other people's time, and that is the greatest respect. And third thing is that your victory, when you win something, your victory is defined not just by your victory, but your victory is defined by how well you treat the person who lost to you. So these things really empowered me to think differently. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brenda. You can take it. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all these, your thoughts. That's so great. You correctly said that it's very important to be a good human first, and then knowledge comes. And you said that, yes, I mean, we really we need those kind of people who can, analyze the knowledge, analyze the information which you are getting, and just give the gist of that to the people. Thank you so much, Vijay. Thank you so much. It was a great session for taking the time to share your knowledge and experiences with us. Your inputs was highly valuable, and I'm confident that our student benefited greatly from it. I would also like to extend my thanks to the moderator for leading the session, and to the students for their participation. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you for joining.